cosmos out of chaos. Oh my goodness, Rahel.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for being so open to connecting with us today. I know we wanted to do this in person.
Right?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Don't you
couldn't-
It's the universe we're expecting an apology letter from.
Yes, it is.
Right?
I mean,
And it's just
Well, yes, it's perfect like this.
no, it's good. I mean, ideally it was to be in person. We're here actually.
at the house that Xavian was born in. I don't know if you can recognize.
Yes, I can.
We had a beautiful...
Yeah, some of the stuff. The couch.
Yes.
Yeah, I can recognize it.
It's a special couch.
It's
You
a-
definitely will recognize.
Yes.
Right? And ideally, it was hopefully to be you and Ines, both of our doulas, and both of you
Yes.
have had. Well, she's down with COVID, and you've had exposure to COVID, so we're doing the responsible thing.
Yeah.
But it's not going to stop us. So we're very, very pleased. and
No.
thankful.
Yeah.
We're thankful.
And I think it's just amazing for us to have the opportunity to connect with you today, because not only have you been such an important role in, our journey into becoming parents and with birth of Xavian, but I feel like also you not just being an incredible doula, but also psychologist and working with families and children and parents, you have such amazing wisdom to share with people that are, waiting to enter this beautiful next stage of their life into parenthood.
And you're a mother too.
And you're a mother.
And so
I'm a mother.
you're triple qualified.
Wow. Well, I do this for a passion. So, when you do things from your heart, it's not like working. It's something you love to do. And yes, I'm so grateful to be here with you today also. And I just was there with you. You did all the job. You did everything. You set up everything.
But you were the support system, and I think that's really important. And maybe for, everybody that's listening and watching this right now, I think a lot of people don't even know what is a doula.
We didn't know.
We didn't know what a midwife and a doula was until it came time into preparing for, welcoming a child. So maybe you can explain to everybody, what is a doula?
Sure. And doulas have been here for many, many hundreds of years. The figure of a woman supporting the family, supporting the mother, guiding. It's part of our history. But now it's becoming more popular, this name, doula. I think especially in the cities where many families are alone, more than before. For example, here in Costa Rica, there are so many migrants or foreigners. Me, my own, and Ines, we are not from Costa Rica. And well, sometimes we need this support. Sometimes it's the family supporting, but also a doula is someone has been trained to help, to support the mother, the family through this whole process. So, of course, it's different than family because we have, we've been studying, we have a neutral perspective through things, and experience, of course.
Yeah, experience for sure. How many births as a doula have you attended at this point?
Wow. Well, not as much as the midwives, of course.
Of course.
But I think around 70.
Wow. 70
already.
little babies.
That's so
70
beautiful.
little babies.
So
yes.
what is the difference between a midwife and a doula?
Yes, well, we have very different roles because the midwife is taking care of the medical things, making sure the babies and the mother's health is well taken care of. And the doula is the emotional support, is guiding through the process, giving information to, make your own decisions. And, it became like a family member also.
Right.
With, I mean, many families, but especially giving this guidance through the process. So every family takes their own choices, you know. And I mean, we do many things, as you already experienced,
Yes.
right? Because sometimes when you think emotional support, it's hard to think that in what a doula does, but we do many things. I mean, we can support physically during the process with massage, recomforting the mother. Also, well, help you, I don't know, like giving the guidance through the process also, like what positions or ways to face the sensations.
You guys were amazing. I mean,
birth.
you and Ines as my doulas during the time of contractions and birthing, like you did exactly what you're saying. Like you were such, first of all, a physical support. I remember there was all of those like moves you made me do and the rubbing and like specific like blanket movements that you would help my pelvis relax. Like that was amazing. And you guys were the first people that came to the house when I was in labor. You know, the midwives came way later as, you know, the progress was getting a little bit further. But I think that's something really important for people listening to this to also understand, like you're saying, like you become part of the family. And that's, I really feel like for myself and Mark, what you and Ines were to us, like before the birth. Yes, I remember I'd always could text you and ask you for support. I'm like, oh, why am I feeling this way? Is this normal? But even after Xavian was born, like you guys, one of you was always here every single day for 2 weeks. Like every day, you were checking in on me. You were checking in on the breastfeeding. You were answering my messages, my phone calls. Like you truly were part of our like first 2 weeks as a family of 3.
Well, we stayed 30 days in this house, 40 days afterwards. And you two, we saw every single day. And it was that you became part of the family unit, which was so fitting, especially being foreigners in Costa Rica. So being able to have a family unit to give us guidance who have been through it before. But I think even more importantly, it was the reassurance and the education at the beginning, at the very start, that I think really ingrained you into the process. Because in a way, when you're looking to give birth in the original natural way, like to have it at home, in the way that women and families have been having children for thousands and thousands of years, at this stage in history, our families looked at us like we were insane. Like
well, the moment I was like, I want to have a home birth, my mom was like, oh, but it's so dangerous. Oh my God. What?
Yes.
Like she was like freaking out because there's like this lack of education of choice and the idea that like Mark was saying, the stigma that people think home birthing is dangerous and that the only way to give to birth a child is in the hospital. But we were, you know, the thing with us that we were always saying, it's like the hospitals are there to treat emergencies, but childbirth isn't an emergency. It's part of life. It can be an emergency, yes. But it's not in the beginning. And
with that, then we had no one in our life to turn to.
Yes.
Except for when Juliana came to me and was like, I found some doulas in Costa Rica. and I was like, in my mind, imagining these mystic, like medicine with like doula. And I had no idea. She just learned what it was and I'm learning. And in my mind, I'm just like, oh, this is like, and then you realize how it's all very normal. But what you allowed us to do is understand that in a culture where it's not normal, the normal is abnormal. It was you guys that stepped into her life to like be like, no, you guys are on the right track. And that reassuring, that amount of like reassurement. What is the word I'm looking for?
Reassurance.
Reassurance.
And reassurance
was like, that was the beginning of not just the confidence we needed, but the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
And I think also for us, like we went into a big dive of trying to expose ourselves to as much as information. And like we watched, you know, certain movies like The Business of Being Born, for example, which was an amazing documentary that exposed the medicalization of birth in hospitals and how much it is just as much as a business as a lot of other things. And that really opened our eyes to what's really happening with the modern day birthing.
Which is the elimination of an option. It's not saying that it's the wrong way. It's just, to us, it was, there's no, like, all we knew, and I think so many people out there know, because no one teaches you in high school what to do when you are expecting a child. And then all of a sudden, it's like the little pregnancy test says, here it comes, and you're just like, okay, all I know
Get a doctor. Like,
is
what?
I need a doctor fast. Like, what do we?
Yes, I need a doctor, right?
Which is crazy because, like Juliana said, it's not an emergency.
Well, yeah,
exactly. And sometimes people take care more about the ultrasounds, for example, which directly doesn't affect your baby's health. Or the mother's health what affects directly is how you live life, how are you eating, how are you exercising, moving, and many people is like very into the ultrasounds every month, you know, and we still don't know what are the effects of all these
medical
many ultrasounds during pregnancy.
And now, like you mentioned, you've been present in 70 births so far. Like, for yourself and your experience, have you seen a shift in women? Like, do you find more women are curious about home birthing, or is there more fear in women when they come to you?
Well, most of people go to the hospital. That's the reality, because it's what is being taught to. I mean, recently, because births happen in hospital just a few years ago. I mean, if we consider all the human history, it's just like the 60 years. We started going to the hospitals. Before that, birthing was always a family event with a midwife, with another woman, doulas, helping. And it's becoming like the normal thing to do now. I mean, here in Costa Rica, around 1% has a home birth.
Wow.
And actually in America, at the time of the business of being born was shot, it was less than 1%, which I find astounding. And it actually featured a lot of parents and mothers to be talking about just getting it done. Just being like,
they said there's like this designer births. I don't know. Have you heard of that? Where they like have a C-section and they schedule it and then they have a tummy tuck right after. Do you see that in Costa Rica?
Yes, of course.
Really?
What do you think of that? Like, do you think there's like, how does that, being involved in the side of birthing that you are, what's your perspective to that?
Yes. I mean, we as doulas, we support the family's decisions, right? So, I mean, we have had families that come to us and they want a programmed C-section. And I mean, we support their decision.
It's beautiful.
Even in a C-section, you can have, I don't know, for example, the first hour skin to skin, close to your baby, and start breastfeeding as soon as possible. But I mean, it's hard to get this also in this medical system. So I mean, we share information during pregnancy, but we cannot take the decisions for the families.
Of course.
Well, and I think that's what we loved about working with you guys, was really like you gave us options to think about and answered the questions in a way that anyone else from where we came from, even our families, couldn't give us like legitimate answers, just like sort of their emotional reactions to the stigmas.
But you know, to me, why I really, for me personally, and again, this is a personal decision, why I wanted to have a home birth, because I wanted to experience everything that women have been experiencing since the beginning of time. I wanted that initiation. I wanted to feel the pain. I wanted to feel all of the sensations. Because on some of the things that I watched, even like the use of, different medications that they use in hospitals, where they're like, oh, well, you go to the hospital and you get an epidural and you don't feel any contraction. And then they, put some, like, can you talk about these kinds of medications like Pitocin and epidurals? Yeah. Like, what is that?
Yes. Well, also especially the epidural, I think it makes a lot of sense in a society that doesn't want to feel. You have a headache, you take a pill. You have something, right, and you take a pill. So we're not used anymore to feel these sensations. Right. I don't know. It's too hot. We turn on the air. So we want to be all the time in our comfort zone. So I don't judge mothers that want this option. Yeah. It's also their decision. But of course, every intervention, every drug you use during the process, it has a side effect, as any drug, we know.
Right.
So, for example, Pitocin sometimes is needed.
What is Pitocin? Can you just explain?
Pitocin, sure. It's artificial oxytocin. Okay.
So what does it do? What is its role? Why do they give it to women?
Yeah, well, we produce natural oxytocin during the process. Is what it's called also the love hormone. And it does many, many things. It has to do with the attachment, the capacity of love, other people. And it also produces contractions in the uterus. So in some cases, especially when the birth is medicalized, they use Pitocin like the regular thing to do, just to rush the process. Yeah, just to rush things up. Right. But it also has its effects, because when we produce oxytocin, this oxytocin also goes to our brains.
Right.
The natural one. And with oxytocin, we produce endorphins, which is another hormone that helps with the sensations. When a mother is in labor, long labor, as you did, Juliana, between contractions, I don't know if you remember, between contractions, you kind of can fall asleep, or you can rest and like relax, and then it comes again. That's thanks to the endorphins. Okay. But when we have Pitocin, we stop producing these natural endorphins. We stop producing our natural oxytocin, because the body understands, okay, we already have enough oxytocin, so we stop producing it. But this artificial one doesn't go to your brain. So, it doesn't affect the other hormones.
Right.
So many mothers have experienced more pain during the process with Pitocin.
Oh, wow.
And there are some studies, very interesting, because at the beginning when doctors and scientifics started to use and study this Pitocin, they thought probably this would prevent postpartum depression, because postpartum depression sometimes is related with low quantities of oxytocin in your body. So they believed that if using the Pitocin, it would prevent this. But after the research, they discovered that mothers that use Pitocin, they had like higher risk to have a postpartum depression.
Wow.
Wow. So is it an artificial hormone? Like, so it actually just replaces, you're just supplementing your body?
Exactly.
Interesting, because what you taught us about oxytocin was we found it so interesting to hear things about like how safety and darkness and intimacy and all of these qualities of sort of like going
love.
back in history to like having a cave and cuddling up and feeling very, all of that creates oxytocin, which is funny because when you imagine the typical bright lights and strangers and very clinical environment of a hospital, does that actually cut off the oxytocin, which then demands more Pitocin?
Yes, it's interesting because sometimes we talk to the family so they know why is this happening. When we go to the hospital, they're at home nesting with very low lights, music, aromatherapy, and then they go to the hospital and they see what you just described, the lights, new faces, many questions, and sometimes the process kind of starts to slow down. Okay. But sometimes we have the opportunity in some hospitals to set up also a place to lower the lights,
like
to
set the mood, kind of, right?
Like set the same, almost
right
the
almost.
same, but in the hospital, especially the private ones. But at the public ones, it's hard to do this because you cannot turn off the lights, for example.
Right.
And there are many other families having their processes. And most of the women have these kind of births here in Costa Rica. Not everyone is able to afford a birth in a private hospital.
Right.
So sometimes the process kind of slow down, and then when they feel like comfortable in that place, it starts again. But I've experienced with many mothers that the process starts to slow down, and they need artificial.
Wow.
So environment plays a huge role in this sort of
stimulation. But what about, it's one thing, the effects of Pitocin and the epidurals on the mother, but is there any sort of correlation of those medications passed on to the baby and or even like the psychological effect on the babies when they're being, exposed to these medications?
Sure, because it goes through the umbilical cord. Sorry. Babies are also exposed to these medicines, and when a mother gets Pitocin, they have to be monitoring the baby continuously,
right?
Because doctors and nurses, they know that using Pitocin it's having more risk for all the baby also. So some babies doesn't accept these drugs, and some babies starts to having problems with the heartbeat, too fast or too low.
So like distress, like the babies become distressed during that time.
Exactly, because, and also the Pitocin doesn't allow you to rest in between contractions. Usually is one after another and another. And of course, sometimes it fasten up things up, but what is the cost of that?
Right.
Yeah.
And I also seen families that, everything was fine, and then they used the Pitocin and they had to rush for an emergency C-section because the baby is stressed.
Right.
Also with the epidural, some babies don't absorb it that well.
That's really interesting because it's like you take the Pitocin And I can't even imagine not having a rest between contractions. Because I remember when I was going through them, it was like, oh my God, if I didn't get that minute or whatever I had between, like, I can't imagine how painful that would be for a woman. So I get the need for the epidural, because if you're already putting a synthetic hormone in there like Pitocin, you need the other one to give the mother a break. Otherwise it's, unbearable. So it's crazy that it's like, as soon as you include one thing, it's just like, now you're adding on and adding on. And that's, I mean, that's the thing. I think it's important for women to just recognize that is the risks of that too, that it's, and I don't think they talk about that in the hospitals.
No.
Just like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Nobody told us any of that until we met you, and then started researching and, reading, like you said, like the Ina May Gaston books, and then also like watching a few documentaries. All of a sudden this information became realized, which made us, I think, together come to the conclusion with much more confidence that it might be necessary. And when it is, all day. It's like you said about the Advil. Like, if you have a migraine, take the Advil. If you have a headache, try to exercise maybe, or do something else that can get your circulation going to give you some relief. And so for this, I think it was for us, it was like, until you have to enter that cycle, which I think has been illuminated to me. You get the Pitocin, and then it's too much pain, so then you get the epidural. But then the epidural can also like slow things down, which makes you need more Pitocin, which creates like this crazy cyclical cycle, which expedites emptying beds in the hospital quicker for sure. Because I think the hospital's job is to like get people in and then out, because it's a cycle. And at the end of the day, I'm not saying anyone's intention is nefarious, but it's being taught in a way to accelerate the process of birth. But I think without having to accelerate, like to accept that acceleration, to be able to lean back and experience, and I think it was interesting. You said something about like, for a society that doesn't want to feel, and I gave Juliana so much credit when she turned to me when we found out we were pregnant. And it blew my brains out when she said, I don't want to take any drugs if I don't need to. And I would like to experience the fullness of what this means to be a woman. And as a husband, I was floored. I'd never thought anything like, all I know is like the movies where women are screaming and getting rushed in cabs to the hospital and giving birth in the back of a car, like the Hollywood birth. So in my head, I was just, and it was, again, I go back to you guys, but it was you guys that helped me cope with her desire for that, which I stood by her. She wants to be a warrior all day long. She's a warrior. Like, I love it. And she was like, I'm speaking as if you're not here, but you were. Like, it was beautiful to see. But I just think that there's something to go back to the beginning to say, like, to be able to not engage in a cycle of medicalization with the intention to feel and to experience. There's something really beautiful about that and natural. Yeah.
And I think maybe it's also important to share, like, you've been also in home births and you've seen many different kinds of home births. And I think for me, what was important that helped me kind of understand that this was the right path and the right option for me personally, it was reading and listening to many beautiful stories of women having these beautiful births at home, and that was like full of connection and yes, struggle, of course, and pain that comes with initiation. But that really helped me, because like I said, as soon as you tell somebody, oh, I'm having a home birth, they're like, oh my God, that's so dangerous. You shouldn't be doing that. You need to be with the doctor, So it's amazing, like, in your experience that you've seen, you've been in home births. Has there ever been a time where you were like, been with a family and told them, no, you shouldn't have a home birth, that we recommend that you should go to the hospital? Like, is there a way that you guys not screen, but just advise based on people's circumstances?
I mean, you mean they are already in labor or before?
Before.
I guess before. Yeah. Like when families are trying to make a decision, right?
Okay. Yes. Now with the pandemic, many families started to take this decision, but based in fear, like not going to the hospital because there is the virus.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And but it also make many people to think about we're taking healthy women to hospitals where there's sick people.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, many people during the pandemic took this decision to have a home birth, but based on fear. And I mean, we try to make them also like be very clear that they were sure to have a home birth, but because if you make a decision based on fear, sometimes it affects also the process.
Yeah. But with home births, I mean, it's not, I think also people have this, vision like, oh, you have no support. It's like, I remember you guys came fully prepared. Like, I remember the midwives had like oxygen tanks and you had all the medical supplies and the stitches and everything like that, right? Like you guys, like you come prepared for any sort of circumstance. Like, have you guys ever had to, I guess my question would be like, what do you pack? Like, what do you bring with yourself? Like, so people can feel comfortable at any situation.
Yeah, well, the midwives, they pack many things. They are prepared also to solve many things at home. But we as doulas, since we are not in, we don't have to that responsibility, especially things to help the mother support during, the contractions. So we have, I don't know, rebozo oil, heating pads.
So comforting kind of supplies.
Comforting. Yes. Right. But, the doula, doesn't need anything. I mean, just the presence of the doula,
right?
It's enough. I mean, these other things are helpful, but I mean, it doesn't mean that you need that to support a family.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this conversation right now. I just wanted to interrupt this episode for a quick moment and let everybody know that Stars Destruct is a brand new podcast and creation that Mark and I have birthed into life. It is very, very dear to our hearts. And if you're getting any value out of the episodes or the guests or just anything that we are bringing forward through this platform, it would mean the absolute world to us if you would click that subscribe or follow button and help us continue to bring this project to the top. All my love to you, and let's go back to the episode.
We had a third doula for a minute.
Remember the
Do you
cat?
remember the third doula?
Yeah.
That was so funny. So as Juliana was going into...
We had a mattress, actually, like right
where
here
we're
where
sitting,
this couch is. And that was like before the midwives came still. I remember we were kind of the beginning of my contractions, but you came and Ines was coming. And we left the door open here. And there's like the stray cat that just lives in the neighborhood area. And I remember like on all fours, like kind of getting through the contraction and then feeling somebody licking my fingers. Yeah. And then biting them, but like nicely biting them. And I was like, and then I look and there's this cat. And I'm like, why is there a cat right here?
What's a doula cat?
It was the doula cat. And she was there for a while. And she was just rubbing her head on my...
And purring.
And she was like, again, like connecting. And it's funny when that moment happened, it reminded me again of like, it gave me that confirmation, like, yes, like I'm going through an experience that animals go through, that every living being that brings life into this world, like, and this animal, this cat was able to feel the energy and something brought her into the house. Like, yes, the door was open, so she walked in, but like she felt something and came and she was there to help me. And like, almost there was like this, it didn't matter. I was a human and she was a cat. She was feeling my pain. And so I had you guys rubbing my back and wiggling my hips or whatever, you know, with the towels. And then there was this cat licking my hands. And it was so beautiful because I felt like there was like this moment of reconnection to like this like primal kind of energy that was like running through me. And it was so, so beautiful. And I keep going back and replaying all of the memories that I had in this house and with you guys, and just, you know, the idea and the blessing that I was able to experience it in all the ways that I hoped for, you know, which was amazing.
We had a few people come to the door that night.
Did you notice that, Juliana?
The neighbors?
Yeah.
Do you remember the neighbors?
That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
They were knocking the door.
It was like 3 in the, well, I don't know if you don't remember.
I don't
She didn't
remember.
know. She had no idea, but at like 3 in the morning, just like, it's been going on for like, we're probably approaching 30 hours at this point. And, you know, there's a bang at the door, and there's been all kinds of moaning in the house all night, like lots of moaning and screaming and primal sounds. And then, and then there's a knock, and we answered the door. I think it was myself and 3 women. It was it was at least 3 women. The whole birth team just like opens the door, and the security guard was just like
what's happening here?
What is happening? Like, don't worry, it's just a baby being born. Don't worry.
But what was he thinking?
I don't know. That is.
It was so good.
Oh my goodness.
Politely asked us to keep the noise down.
Yeah.
We promised we would try.
Yeah. But you know, and I have all those memories, but then I think the most connective memory that I have was the moment in this hallway, because I remember there was a moment when my labor went into my back labor, and Mark was like, if you really like, and this was like over 30 hours. It's like, if you want to go, and that's another thing, it's like surrendering to the universe, because I find that people have these plans, they want to have a home birth, but then anything can go, right? And many times, like, people do have to transfer to the hospital, and that's okay, because at that point, it's like, maybe you need some sort of intervention. That happens like a lot in your experience when you've done it, or like home births?
Not that much.
Not that much?
I mean, during home birth, because usually, I mean, not usually, always, a home birth is, I mean, not everyone can have a home birth, right? It has to be a healthy mother, healthy baby. They have to have at least 37 weeks. You know, a premature baby cannot be born at home, and you also need to be close to the hospital.
Just in case, right?
Exactly. Just in case you need to be transferred. But yeah, so with a healthy mother, healthy baby, and at least 37 weeks, the options to be transferred are very low.
Right. Yeah. And I almost...
Yeah, usually it's a very healthy process most of the time.
I think for me at that time, it wasn't even anything went wrong, but because Xavian, remember, he was being born with his head up instead of his chin tucked in, so the military position, as you guys call it, right? So he was coming down so slowly, and I was dilating so slowly. And I think it was, like Mark said, at hour 30, like 30 hours of going through these contractions. I was beyond exhausted.
I had to carry you down the stairs at one point.
Yeah, and the pain.
You had put in your complete entire self.
And my pain went into my back. And that's when, you know, we thought. But I think for me, it was also, I think when I knew if I was going to get transferred, and I accepted it. I was like, okay, I have to make peace in my mind that most likely they're not going to allow me to keep going. They're going to put me and they're going to cut me and have a C-section and pull the baby out and it'll be fine. And it was just like, I was okay with it. It wasn't like, oh man, I failed at a home birth, you know, like it wasn't about that. It was just like, and it was that understanding that, like, surrender to the universe and trusting that whatever path was going to take, it was meant to happen. And I remember we were like, okay, we made the decision, let's transfer. You guys were packing your bags and packing the car.
Everything was in the cars already.
Goodness.
Everything.
And it happened so fast. I remember, like, we made the call. We're like, okay, we're going. And it was just like a whirlwind in the whole house. Like, everyone was running in different directions. And
I swear it was like something with like endorphins or not endorphins, adrenaline that was kicked in.
Adrenaline.
Yes, adrenaline. And I like held the wall here and I was going through these contractions. And then just feeling like
it was the front door. You had your shoes on.
Yeah, I had my flip-flops on.
Yes, we were putting your flip-flops already.
And I was holding on to this wall, and then I just felt something. And then I looked at Mark, and I looked in your eyes, and I was like, I think it's coming. And he's like, do you think so? And then Monica, the one of the midwives, she's like, you think it is? She whipped out the Dutch stool, which is like that toilet seat kind of seat. Clothes were ripped off, well, at least the bottom part of my clothes. And then Mark was like holding me like from the back. And I just remember cell phones came out because I think all of like the flashlights got packed. Like nobody had anything. It was like everything was in the car. So I remember like looking down and I saw Marie and Monica, the two midwives, with their cell phone flashlights, like right in there. And, you know, there I was just like bringing this energy of like, this power coming through me. And then Xavian was there and he was born. And that moment, as soon as he came out, it was like time stopped. And Mark was like literally like holding on to me from the back. And then you guys just put him in our arms, and he came out with this cone head because of his head that was like super long. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with his head? What's wrong with him? But you were like, don't worry, it'll settle down. It'll settle down. But it was that moment that when you said that skin to skin of like touching him and holding him and Mark there, like, and it was like this really, really beautiful, powerful moment for us as a family, as you know, as myself and Mark, like all of a sudden we have our baby and we're together, like there, you know, we're just like in this little ball, like wrapped in each other's arms, and then this third child just being placed in our arms. And there was just something so raw and so incredibly powerful about that moment, and beautiful and natural, and like all of these sensations. And I just,
you know, like ecstasies.
Yes, it was just like this moment. And I think for me as well, it was because I was so comfortable with all of you guys, like everybody that was present there wasn't a stranger. Like I knew every single person. You guys all had such beautiful energies about you. So like everything in that moment, in that environment, felt like a dream and like surreal. And I have like, I even remember the smell in every moment, like it's engraved in my heart. And I think it'll forever in my life be engraved in that, you know, because of that moment. And so for me, it was like, it was such a beautiful experience that I hope and wish for any women right now listening to that, like, that is possible and you can have that experience. And it doesn't have to be filled with lights and you know, drugs and many people coming in and out of rooms, and that it's, you know, it's beautiful because I've heard a lot of traumatic births. I've heard a lot of women, a lot of girls and people I know even that have had really, really traumatic experices.
In the hospital.
In the hospital, that's what I mean. Yeah, hospital, medicalized like experience that have like translated then into the recovery. Can you speak to that, like how trauma can affect the postpartum experience as well?
Yes, of course, because it doesn't affect just the mother, the father that is present there, but also the baby. Because, many years ago, people thought that babies didn't feel, like they didn't
feel. Like didn't have feelings?
They didn't feel. Yeah, well, like
sensations.
Even their nervous system is different. So, for example, we have this idea that is better for girls. I have girls, so I also have this in mind, that, you know, the earrings. The holes for the earrings, and many people think that it's better to do it when they are little. I mean, just newborn, because they will feel less pain.
Wow.
Huh.
But you know, they feel more. They're so sensitive,
Right?
And yeah, it's different if you're a grown up, and and you take the decision to do this to your body. But yeah, many people think that babies So even in the hospital, they touch babies and they manipulate them like very rough.
Was that, is there a connection there to circumcision and the cultural acceptance of that? And the thinking that babies don't feel? Because, I mean, we didn't really think about that till we had a boy. And then a lot of people in our community sent us a lot of information, which helped us guide to a point where we didn't circumcise Xavian because
we couldn't put him through that.
Well, we just did. We'd never considered what could be wrong with it because it seems like such a normal thing. But you're talking about getting ears pierced for girls, but circumcision for boys. Like, do you have any information on that?
That's also, well, yes, also, I mean, it's painful. I've seen, babies circumcised and it's uncomfortable. They cry, they complain. And I mean, they don't understand what's happening. They just feel the pain. And I mean, of course, it's a decision, sometimes guided for medical reasons or religious reasons. Right. But yeah, we have to be aware that, I mean, it's painful for them.
When it's unnecessarily traumatic, I'd imagine. Like we're talking about, like
unnecessary.
And I think that was what was really brought to light for us. I mean, it was a choice for us to make as parents, but I think I think what came, like what was the decision was the word unnecessary. And so as new parents, it just kind of became like, we don't want to do anything that would cause any kind of level of trauma or especially so new in life to go through something so painful. Like it's painful to be a baby, I'd imagine. You're just thrown into this world and it's like, you have no idea.
Many new sensations.
Oh my goodness. Like just even like learning just the basic fundamentals, like and experiencing that must be enough for the psyche.
Yes.
So for us, it was just like, and I thought we would do it when we had a boy, but then, and I appreciate everyone in our community that sent us the information, just to consider it. And I think if you Google it, if you've never thought about it before having a child, if we didn't know if Xavian was going to be a boy or a girl, so we really didn't think a lot about the different decisions we'd have to go through. Yeah. But I was very grateful for just realizing that it wasn't necessary, because if someone asked us right out the gate, we were like, sure, we're going to circumcise him.
As we're rounding up the conversation, I just wanted to quickly remind everybody of the sponsor of today's episode, Boho Beautiful Prenatal Journey, which is funny enough to say we are the sponsor, but it's a very, very special program that I hope can really connect to any expecting mother that is looking for beautiful guidance in regards to her fitness, yoga, and mindfulness practice during a very, very special time of her life. Or perhaps you know an expecting mother that is looking for some guidance, and this could make a beautiful gift for her. So don't forget, there's a coupon code Stars Destruct. You can get 20% off this premium program by visiting bohobeautiful.life/prenatal. Back to the conversation. But it's interesting how like humans, like we interfere with like the natural process. Like nature didn't really intend for boys to have that alteration, you know? And I think about also, you know, like the interaction between, like, if you go a little bit further into the spiritual side of like the interaction between the souls and the mother and the child, like, you know, they speak about, you know, the first 40 days of how important it is on a spiritual level for the soul to be integrated into the body. Like, what is your view on all of that in terms of the connection between the mother and the child?
Yeah, well, you know, babies are born wanting and expecting something very similar to what they have in the womb. I mean, they were moving, in movement. They didn't have to care about eating, right, for example. And they were warm and with their mother the whole time. So they expect something very similar to this. And that's why you see in, many cultures, especially in the indigenous cultures, it's something they do it because it's very practical. Because many women work in the fields, and they have to harvest, and and they have to continue with their lives. So they have their babies with a wrap, and they continue. It's not like you have to change your life because you have a baby now. No, they integrate their babies to the many different things that we do as adults, and parties and things, for weddings, for example. I mean, they're part of the community. Probably in the cities we think differently.
Right.
And yeah, for example, we won't be used to see, I don't know, someone in the bank with their baby in a wrap.
Right.
But we could. I mean, what's the problem? Especially at the first days when they basically sleep, they feed, they poop.
So it's important.
What's the problem?
Them. It's important, though, in the development of the relationship of the mother and the child. Right?
Exactly. They need constant contact.
Right.
Okay. And it's not that sometimes we hear like demandant babies, but every baby is high demandant.
Right.
Because you need to take care of them 24/7. And I mean, not just the mother, the father, I mean, they need to be in contact with another human being. Of course, the mother and the father.
Yes.
But if there is a sister, a friend, or someone else like very close to the family who can also hold the baby, I mean, that's what they need, basically.
What about on the soul level, though?
Yes. Well, mother and baby are connected, like emotionally, even. Well, I think that, and I mean, not just me, many psychologists and many people think that we are connected to our babies, like for the first 2 to 3 years, like emotionally connected. So what the mother feels, the baby feels. What the baby feels, the mother feels. And I mean, babies don't talk. They just communicate through their cry or their facial expressions, and we get to know them by living with them day by day, and of course, it's very different to be born in a peaceful place than in a stressful place, because babies they can feel that this world is dangerous, or I was born in a safe place.
That's so interesting.
It is interesting because when you say like you feel what the baby feels, and I still feel like that with Xavian. I mean, he's 1.5 years right now, but to me, like when he's getting sick, like I feel like I think he's getting sick. Like there's just like this intuition in me, or like it's hard to explain, but it's like I just feel this. If he's feeling hurt or sad or frustrated, it's just like this interesting energetic connection. And I have heard like there's many different religions that say like something about even in the first couple of weeks where your auras and your energetic fields are the same with the baby, and it takes time for them to part from one another, become their own energetic field. And so that's why when you leave too far away, the baby feels the mother is not present in that area, and it starts to cry and it freaks out because it's like an energetic level. And I do believe like babies especially, like they just came from somewhere incredible. You know what I mean? Like they are so much more connected to source, to God, to the universe, whatever you call it. Like they were just like they were just pushed through creation. And so they are so deeply in tune with energy and with emotions and with frequency as well. And so that's why you say it's probably important to surround young children with positive, good energy, because they soak it all in and they feel it.
Well, I think about when he was born, like 3 feet over there, and then I guess we kind of made our way within 10 minutes to the mattress here, surrounded by safety and love of you guys, and like it had been 34, 36 hours at that point. Either of us have even thought about sleeping, and it took us a few hours more, but it was just like this beautiful, it felt almost like a tribal, but tribal makes it sound like more like prehistoric. It was just like this, but it was like family, like tribe around us. And like all of a sudden you were showing Juliana almost immediately how to breastfeed and the placenta, and we're cutting the cord. And it was just this whole like ritual of love and light and warmth and safety. And it just continued that way in this space. Like, I think we just passed out. Eventually, and then, I think
immediately within the first hour, like
but then like
finally you're done.
We were able to stir and be in the same place with him like 5 hours later. And like it was like, holy shit, that all happened, and we're still where we were, and it still feels like, I think we rode that wave of like euphoria. Because we didn't even have to disturb, we didn't have to leave a hospital or get out of it, tucked any straight, fill out any forms. All that stuff was gone. It was literally, we
never left that mattress for the first month. Like, we didn't have to go anywhere. You guys came to us, you know.
And we lived on a mattress in this room.
Food got delivered and
had food delivered, and just like you guys would come, and it was so like, and that's like, I don't know if we're imprinting the psyche of Xavian with love and light. Like, I'm so happy that you helped us find that first 30-day experience of our little cocoon and our little, like, our little tribe.
And I think it's important. I actually have heard a lot of different cultures say that, like, the first 40 days, it's like the magic number, right? It's like when they even say that you should just be around very minimal amount of people, like just a couple of family members or even just the mother and the father. Because it's such a, not just, I think also for the exposure to, you know, viruses and things like that, because the baby's so young at that point. But also, just for that integration into the human physical world is important. It's always like making sure you have that moment, that space, and that support system to guide you through it.
It was a blessing, like it was a miracle. Like I will forever be so grateful for you and your support through that to help build that situation and give us the confidence to do it.
And I think, go ahead, sorry.
No, but because sometimes people think why we women have to suffer and have to feel all this pain during labor, like something you suffer, but actually it's not suffering. I mean, yes, sometimes it's painful. The sensations are very, very strong. But at the end, you have this reward that you think, I mean, I'll do this again if I have to. Just to feel this, I mean, having your baby, you don't experience that in other situations. For example, a traumatic birth, you don't have that feeling. And that's a reward. And nature always rewards what is going to continue with life. For example, breastfeeding. It has to be pleasurable. It has to be joinable, because if it wouldn't, we wouldn't survive as a species.
That's so true. Even in the first few weeks is very painful and unenjoyable, because I remember it was really tough for me to get that down. But then now, for sure. Like and it's that bonding and connection. For me, I'm still breastfeeding Xavian, and he's actually quite booby obsessed right now. It's kind of
he says boo boo,
which at some point I feel like I will have to get to a point when he's gonna get a little older. I'll have to wean him. I might come to you guys for advice. So how do you wean a baby, because you can't breastfeed him forever. But right now in the moment, it's such a beautiful moment of connection for both him and I.
Exactly.
And you won't get that forever. They're only going to be that small for so long.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting because before, when we talk about breastfeeding, you'd be like, and this is just your random like preconceived stigma, you're like, after 6 or 8 months, I'll probably be done. Like she was always just like, then it's back to like, and now you're at 1.5 years, and it's really interesting. And you're all still speaking about the beautiful bond and the beautiful connection. And I think that's something that if you're open to, maybe that allows, like the openness allows you to actually experience the, like what you're saying, which I don't know much about, but I witness it every day, and this richness of bond.
Yeah,
it's so
and
beautiful to see.
At least to try, because I know there's some women out there that can't breastfeed, you know, and that happens too, and it's unfortunate. Some women that choose not to, and I think if you can, and if your body allows for that, then you should try it and strengthen the bond with the baby. You know, and it's again understanding like the reasons why behind everything, and you know, just to come back to the full circle, I think you know, right now, as there are many women that are about to give birth or about to get pregnant or expand their family, what would you tell them from your experience? Like, what would your advice be to any expectant mother and father right now out there in the world when it comes to giving birth?
To listen to their needs, to their hearts, because I mean, we as doulas, we just guide you from what you really want. So listen to that, not that, I mean, all the information and commentaries that, I mean, we have when we're pregnant, many information coming from outside. And yeah, you need to listen to the inside and what you want for this process, because it's possible. It's possible to have a beautiful experience, a memorable experience that you would like to share. Not something that it's because, it's very sad that many women have these bad memories. It's the birth of their babies. It's supposed to be the most beautiful day and the most like incredible experience in life.
That's beautiful. Just to listen, right? And like you said, it's beautiful to listen to the intuition. And I think it also, I would add to that is remember that there are options, right? Like, and not just home birth. I know like, I don't know much about Costa Rica, but I know in like North America and Canada, America, they even have birthing centers. Like, you know, that's kind of like a mix in between a hospital and a home, if that people wanted a little bit of both. So it's like really opening your eyes and knowing that hospital is not the only way. There are many ways to bring birth forward and to birth a child into this world. And, you know, anytime people have asked us about advice, we always say like, what's most important is a place where you feel safest, most comfortable. And to us, we felt so safe and comforted, and we had this beautiful family around us of you guys, of our doulas and midwives that really, you know, helped. You were the rock for me through the difficult times. You know, you really held my hand through it a lot spiritually. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And, you know, next time I have another baby, I'll be calling you up.
I'll do the same. You'll do the same.
Yes, exactly.
Right here in this house.
We'll rent the same Airbnb.
No, I don't know. I think that's really beautiful, Juliana. I think there's something to be said also about knowing like the difficult times isn't just like, because you were a rock in the difficult times, but I think also the difficult times of deciding about the difficulty of listening to your heart, not just in birth, but in anything in this life, in this world, like listening to your own instinct, intuition, your heart. It's never the easy road, but the easy road is not always the most rewarding and richest experience either. And so finding that courage and watching Juliana find that courage with your guys' help, because it's a very difficult place to be. It's a difficult pursuit to pursue your truth. But to see if you can surround yourself with people that can help you find your truth and educate you to get through the noise of everyone trying to influence your truth in order to make that decision for yourself. Like that to me was one of the most beautiful things to witness as the father in the room, which was a room full of women supporting her as a woman. And so, and to find her truth, and then to give us as a family this opportunity to have this beautiful, intense and heroic and warrior-filled, like challenging birth story that ended up in a hallway in an Airbnb in Costa Rica. I would honestly, like, I couldn't imagine it ever being more perfect.
Yeah.
Like, the pursuit of perfection is not always the easiest road, but it's always the most rewarding.
Exactly.
And honestly, we give it up to you guys. Like,
So thank you.
Yes, this is the path that your souls decided to receive Xavian. And I also think that, I believe that babies decide where, when, and with whom. And I mean, how they want to enter into this world.
That's amazing.
Because, sometimes, I don't know, every birth is sacred and beautiful. The way it has to be.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that you taught that to us as well, which was not to have an expectation.
And that's important because, there's going to be many times that you have a certain way you want it to go and it's not going to go that way. And I think what you're saying is beautiful. And I think for every woman out there to remember whatever path, whatever way her birth unfolds, that's the way it was supposed to be. And it had a sacred in that moment, and it's perfect for what that moment called for.
And all that matters is you have the baby in your arms.
And that
at the
you're
end.
both healthy and well, and everything else unfolds after that.
But that's so funny about, like, the baby knows what you just said, like how the baby wants to be born and to who and how.
Because Xavian wanted to be born at home. Like, there's a reason why he was not getting in that car.
I don't know. Like, you were literally a foot out of the door of this house. It's almost like the field of energy outside of this house. Yeah. The second your foot touched the earth outside the front door, no. You like that looking up at me.
He said no.
Yeah, he's like, no.
I'm coming down.
And he's very strong-willed now. Like, he's a very strong-willed baby. So I'm sure that was his first exercise of will. So beautiful.
Anyways, Rahel, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, for sharing everything. It's so nice to see you.
Oh my goodness.
Connect with you again. Next time I want to give you a big hug. And
yes,
see you in
of course. Oh, yes. Thanks for me, it was very, very special. And remembering all these things, I always remember, it's a funny thing that happened when you guys were in the bathtub, remember? And something happened with the water. Like, I don't know, the water wasn't warming or something. And suddenly Mark came and said, the water broke. And I was, oh no, because I was thinking about the tubers. And he was like, is that bad? And then I realized, the water broke. We always remember.
That's so funny. I don't even know that story. That's so funny.
Well, the water broke both ways. At one point, we ran out of hot water, and it was like, oh my God, we can't fill the tub up without hot water. And you guys made a train of like kettles and pots that was like training out the water, all the hot water that way. And then there was the second time when I came and I was like, the water broke again. But this time it was actually
the water.
The water.
That was, I forgot.
That was so funny.
I forgot that we ran out of hot water. That was so, and I was on the phone with the owner of the house being like, why don't we have any hot water?
You were trying to have a hot water tank at like 2 a.m. Poor me too. I was like getting a call. I'm giving a birth in your Airbnb. Where's the hot water? Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Oh, that's so good.
Memories.
But the next time we do this, we will do this again, and it will be the team, and we'll be in person, and we will give each other a hug and reunite. And Xavian will be here.
Yes, of course.
Xavian will be even bigger than he is now.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Rahel.
Thanks so much.
So good to see you. Big kisses.
Thanks. Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to click that subscribe and follow button.
And check out the description below for links to all the usual social media handles, and check us out on there. All the support we can get, we're deeply grateful for. Plenty more episodes to come, and we'll see you next time on Stars Destruct.
Creating cosmos out of chaos.
Conversations to uplift, ignite, and explore.
A basement podcast from the makers of Boho Beautiful. Unicorns. Chill.